kind of into it because we talk such a big game about like self-reflection on the podcast. That's something that we do talk about and bring up a decent amount.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
let's do it from a podcast.
I think sounds good, right? And just kind of shows like, you know, we're trying to practice what we're trying to preach, right?
That's right.
So,
no hypocrisy here. No hypocrisy here.
Slight hypocrisy, but
well, sure. I mean, I think one of the things about doing a podcast like this is that it is aspirational, right? Like all of it is aspirational. We just brought on Chris last week and talked about all the ways that therapy is great and everything. Therapy intimidates me. Like I'm not in therapy. I've tried it and it scares the shit out of me. I may go back. It was good to talk to Chris about it, but I think like, yeah, it is aspirational and it's educational and it's not always that like we're able to live up to this standard that we're trying to talk about. But
right, absolutely, and like us, like by talking with people who are kind of objectives, places we're trying to land, places we're trying to become, right? We're able to more like adequately define where we're trying to go and what directions we're trying to move in. And like I think that's one of the coolest parts about this podcast to me is we're bringing on people, some of whom are like in our comfort zone but are doing fully for their career or fully for their life mission something that's more of like a passive, like I think about this sometimes. Or even things where it's like we're hoping to bring on some like nutritionists in sometime over the summer, right? And that's like somewhere I'm a little uncomfortable. Like I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't think about my diet that much, right? So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think it's like that's the point of this podcast is that it is a work in progress, right? That we are becoming ourselves. That's an action. It's not just like, it's not a past tense. We haven't done it. It's not achieved. The box is not checked. The box will never be checked, right? Like we are a work in progress as people. I believe that about myself, that I'm always going to be in work in progress. Like I'm never going to want to be completed. I'm never going to want to be done.
Yeah,
I'm going to be growing and iterating. Yeah, no. Like I'm going to be growing and changing and learning new things forever. And I think that's the point of this podcast, is to embrace that mindset, not to sit up here and be like, look at everything that we've done.
Right. There's a few places where it's like, oh yeah, this has been fundamental for me and I want to share it. But even that is like a jumping off point of like, and what more, right? And what's the next, like, oh, where else can I apply this mindset? And then there are so many places where it's like, yeah, we're not here yet. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
25 and 22, like we're figuring this out, and bringing on guests who we want to talk to, and that's ideally what makes this podcast relatable, right?
Yeah, guests that we want to talk to and guests that our listeners want to talk to. We talked to another one of our listeners about coming on or about things that he would want to see on the podcast, topics that he would want to hear from, which I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy hearing from people listening. So if you are listening, shoot us a text. The number's on the screen, 503-893-2664, and text us.
What do you want to delivery hear? Yet?
Well, it was such a clean delivery, man. It's been a journey to memorize that phone number.
When I was doing the intro the other day for Chris's video, I like butchered it so badly.
You took it out.
Did I really? I put it in the outro.
Yeah, it wasn't in the intro.
Yeah, I was like, it's on the screen, right? Like, it's somewhere, right?
You're like, people can watch us on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's where it is.
People figure it out, right? But
yeah, we'll just ignore the fact that like 90% of our views come from Spotify. Like,
oh, man. Ugh. No, I've actually gotten a lot of feedback from people who don't listen to our podcasts, and that's kind of like an interesting place. I don't know. I think I
don't know why anyone would not.
I don't know. We should be the most fun. We're coming for you, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, why do people still listen to Joe Rogan when we're doing this shit? Like, why?
We're making a difference out here. No, it's been kind of funny to hear like just people who like they get the 15-second pitch, and then they're like, you should do an episode on this. And it's like, yeah, I should, but
man, what episodes have they pitched?
Oh, I've gotten a couple like guest ideas of like some coworkers who might be fun candidates. So I'm kind of making my way through there and getting up the clout of work to
you gotta work the relationship first. One of my mentors when I was first at Intel would always say that. She said, always work the relationship first, because then if you mess up some task, some job, you have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
If you work the job first and the relationship second, you're gonna mess up the job, and then you have no relationship to fall back on.
Ooh, I like that. That's smart. That's smart.
Yeah, it is.
It's also like it's way easier to, understand somebody's work style, and you like talk with them and you understand them. You're like, oh well, they messed up here, but they really excel in that space or whatever. So
yeah. No, it's cool. I think it's I'm excited about the guests that we have talked about and the guests that we are. Also, for people listening, this is the whole show today. We're just chatting. We're not bringing on a guest. We don't have a specific topic. Really, the point of this is to do the self-reflection of, we've been doing this podcast for 12 weeks now. We started it April 10th, and we've been doing it since then. So it's 2.5 months. We've got 14 episodes out?
13 I think.
Yeah, this will be
14th.
episode 14. Yeah. So we've got some content out there, enough to get the first sort of a feedback loop in. So this is us on air talking with you, the listeners, and talking with each other, just kind of reflecting on that. Where are we at? How do we feel like things are going?
Yeah, it's been really interesting for me. We've talked off air a little bit, but we've kind of made this like we've talked like a ton, which has been awesome. Best part about this podcast, honestly. But we kind of made this like mission statement, if you will, like to start out, like before we went public, before we launched our first episodes, and it was kind of like, this is what our podcast is. And we recorded our I think 5-minute introduction episode and put in our intro, and it's been interesting to see how much of that has been a guiding light for this, and then how much of it's been like, oh, we like thought aspects of this would be a lot more important, or thought some of it would be easier and some of it would be harder. And so I've learned a ton just in like just like by reflecting on where we started and where we projected to be and where we are.
Well, and that's the idea of like shipping beats perfection, because perfection never happens. That like we started this podcast with some good ideas and a framework of what we want to do. We want this to be interview based. We want it to be long form. We want to cover healthy, wealthy, wise. And now we're like, okay, like what of the full mission statement and everything that we wrote down before we started this show? What if that still applies? What if that has changed? And a lot of it has, because we've found that some guests are easier to find, more fun interviews to do, people that we want to be pursuing more of. Some of them have sparked more topics that we're going to like continue to pursue. Some of this is like, we thought we were gonna have like that jazzy intro on the beginning of every episode. We no longer put that on, because a couple episodes in, I don't know, 6 episodes in or something, we're like, no, I think that's a waste of time. And so now, just on the last episode, Jesse experimented a little bit with doing like a more nonchalant introduction to the Chris episode, the therapist last week. And I think we'll start to lean in and do more of that, and do more of just the two of us kind of teeing up episodes and topics before guests come on.
Yeah, and we've toyed around with like a pretty just like immediately like you hit play and it's us talking, and I think enjoyed doing that, and then trying to figure out like what's the best way to package that, what's the best way to make it cohesive, and thinking like, if I were a listener, like how would I feel if this is the first time I've ever heard this? And also thinking like, well, a lot of this is like, we want to have fun doing this podcast, we want to be enjoying this process, because if we stop enjoying it, like it's not worth like not getting fulfillment out of it. And so it's kind of like, what's the balance here of like, do we want to do we want to really go into like marketing? Do we want to really go into how to make this the biggest podcast, or do we want to make this to be something we're both really proud of? And I think we're definitely falling on the latter half, and also realizing like, oh, but we can make this something we're even more proud of with more concentrated efforts. I want to circle back on like, I like how you talked about some of these guests are easier to find, and I think some of that's like where our connections are, right? Like we have had a lot of success with people who we know or are kind of like on the fringes of knowing, and like that is one of the big reasons like most of our guests have been in the wise quote unquote category, right? It's because like you are out there. We know
wise people.
We know wise people, right? No, it's like you're out there on a lot of the LinkedIn places, and you've done a lot of work making inroads with people who think a lot about their careers and want, are comfortable getting their voice on a mic. Where, some of the, like, we just aren't that connected with a lot of the healthy professions. Professionally, right? And so.
Yeah, which will come, right? I mean, we've taken some steps towards that, right? But I think it has been, like, we've leaned into our strengths so far. And part of this continuing to lean into healthy, wealthy, and wise is that, like, those were purposeful topics. Those were things that we chose for reasons, because they matter to us. They're the things that we want to be and things that we want to pursue. And so, there will be more in those other topics, but I think it has been easy to lean into this stuff that we know. Lean into this stuff that we already have connections and already have relationships with.
Right. And we're like building the skills too. Like I'm so much more comfortable on a mic with headphones on than I was 10 weeks ago. And so stepping out of my comfort zone was being on a podcast, where now it's like stepping out of my comfort zone is being on a podcast with somebody I don't know. And in 6 months, maybe stepping out of my comfort zone will be being on with a guest I don't know in a field I'm not familiar with. Right?
Yeah. Totally. And you've been doing great, dude. Like, it's been really fun to see you kind of grow and become more comfortable behind the mic. That listening back to like a couple of those first episodes, and like, like I think we both sound nervous in ways that we don't now. And I think it's been fun to see you grow, and it's easier to see other people grow than it is yourself. Right. But it's been fun to be a part of that and be a piece of that story.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen us like go into our strengths to like starting to find our voice on the podcast, and realize, like we talked a little bit early on, it's like I like more anecdotal things and you like more like packaged things. But like you've also started stretching that and bringing some of those out in various episodes, and I've started, I'll do my anecdotes, but I'll keep them a little tighter sometimes or something. So
yeah, no, I think it's been good, and I think it's been fun to kind of lean into all that. So,
it's been a vibe. It's been a good time.
It has been. And one of the things too is that like this has been us doing hard things. This has been us practicing hard things. So I listened to an interview recently with Ryan Holiday and Tim Urban. It was a fun interview. I would recommend it. It was on the Daily Stoic channel. And they were talking about, I think it's Ryan Holiday says it, where he says, I don't have faith, I have evidence. Where he doesn't have self-confidence. He's like, no, I know that I can do this because I've done this. And it's this idea that like doing hard things is intimidating, but the more you do them, the more you're able to be confident in yourself, because it's not just a blind self-confidence, it's evidence-based. No, I've done it. So one of the things, man, I'm just going to brag about it. One of the things that I did this past weekend that was a hard thing was I was a part of the team that ran the Wild Rogue Relay, which starts here in Applegate Valley, close to my house, goes 221 miles over to the coast. And I did 18 miles of that and was a part of the team. And like those sorts of things, and doing this podcast and graduating college that you've done recently, like those things are the evidence of you can do hard things. You can lean into it, and you can accomplish stuff that's outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Congrats, by the way. That's awesome. Yeah,
thanks.
That's a lot
I'm very sore.
I bet. No, but I agree. It's about
my
getting
shoulders are sore. We're gonna have to bring in some I don't know, personal trainer, somebody to talk about why the hell are my shoulders sore when I did all this running. I don't know. They're way more sore than my legs are, though. I don't have.
Interesting. I remember that back in the days when I would run like 100 meters or whatever.
You were getting sore from 100 meters?
Yeah, I was not a sprinter for anyone listening. I was like...
Were you a long distance guy?
No, but 100 meters was long distance for me.
So you were not a runner.
I was not a runner.
Sorry, we want to be more inclusive on this podcast. You were a runner of short distances. And it's okay to be a runner of short distances.
Did not identify myself as a runner.
Okay.
But yeah.
I just want to, like, there are people out there that are trying to get into running. We're not gatekeeping that. Like, if you're running short distances, hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Run those short distances at slow pace and build up from there. Do what you can do until you can do more.
My junior year of college was like, hey, I want to watch the Star Wars Boba Fett show. And I said, well,
mistake.
I will only watch an episode when I'm on the treadmill. And that will be my incentive to get on the treadmill. And I tell you what, I've stayed true to that incentive. And I have watched 2 episodes of the Boba Fett show. Ever. But here's a little bit of my like vulnerability. I was chatting with Jeremy the other day, our eldest brother, and he was like trying to get me sold on running, and I'm gonna start trying to do a little bit of jogging, and I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't like running very much, but I'm gonna start trying to do a little bit.
I love it,
and I don't need to set that ambition of like an 18-mile to the coast, whatever.
No.
But,
I ran 140 straight days to end out 2022. I built up to the 18 miles.
Yeah.
No. But my biggest advice to you starting running, or to anyone out there listening, is when I first like started trying to do like running, like running as like an exercise, was after college. And I would finish work at 5. It was COVID world. And so I would finish work at 4:30 or 5, whenever it was. And I would get on my running outfit. I would get on running shorts, running shoes, and a shirt. And then I would sprint as far as I could until I got exhausted. And then I would walk until I could sprint again. And I would not recommend that as the way to do it. Because instead what I would recommend is start out the slowest light jog, like almost embarrassingly slow, that you're like, I'm barely going faster than a walk. Start there, see if you can do a mile, see if you can do maybe 2 miles. I don't know where your body's at, right? Maybe you can do a half a mile, right? Like start there and go as slow. Like if you're doing like a 14, 15, 16 minute mile pace, that's okay. Like, you don't need to be doing, like, a 5-minute mile pace. Like, now my sweet spot is in, like, 10 to 12 minutes if I'm, like, doing longer distance. Although I did one leg in this Wild Oak relay that was 4 miles at a 9-minute pace. That was flying. I felt good about that. But, like, if you're going in this, like, it's okay to be, like, 12 to 14 minutes or something. Like, it can be slow to go. And that makes it so much more sustainable to be able to keep doing.
Yeah, no, that's a good advice. And like,
and the sustainability is what makes it significant, right? It's not that you went out and ran 10 miles one day. Like that doesn't make a difference. Like what helps your body be healthier, be stronger, be like have better circulation, have better muscle mass, like all those things is like the consistent action of doing it. And so anything to make it more sustainable is good. Yeah,
I mean that makes a lot of sense. That reminds me of some finance principles as well. Save a little bit, each paycheck, and do that consistently, and that's going to be more sustainable and often pay better dividends than I saved a bunch once and then never saved again, right? And and then what's a wise way we can
Man, that's so good, Jesse. That was a great comparison. Yeah, that it is this kind of it's like there's a lot of crossover in different fields, right? Mm-hmm. That like it is consistency is what makes the difference in pretty much everything.
Yeah,
Single actions rarely make a difference.
I saw this one quote. It's in the short run, in the short term, what sets you apart is your intensity. But in the long term, what sets you apart is your consistency. And so when you first meet somebody, when you first start making that very first impression, sure, like going hard, doing your very 110, 120%, sure, that might make you stand out a little bit more. But if you want to make a difference 5, 10, 20, 30 years, whatever, even a year, even 6 months, that consistency, show up every day, put in, a little bit, put in the time, show up as your best. Don't show up in an unachievable way or an unsustainable way. Will make you much more memorable, right?
Totally. Plus, like over time, consistency enables your intensity too.
Yeah.
That like you can have more intensity the more consistent you've been, because then what used to feel intense to you now feels mundane, now feels very achievable. And so then when you
shockingly so, right?
Shockingly so, yeah. Like so I did, like, not to always go back to this Wilder Oak relay, but I did it like a few days ago. So
it's a big deal. It's top of mind, right?
It's a big deal. Yeah. This matters a lot. Okay, so like
you're the only person talking crap to yourself about this, Joel.
You're right. I probably am. But like for that, I like have been training up for it. I've been training. So when I started running a year ago, my first run was like 2.2 miles, and I was so wiped out at the end of it. I was exhausted. That was everything that I could do. I was done. Okay. The Wilder Oak relay, I did 3 legs. One of them was 4 miles. One of them was 4.5. One of them was like 7.6. And then I did a couple others. I was helping out, other people on the team, just jumping in where it was needed. But the consistency of doing a mile a day for 4 months last year, and then starting to train up and do more like intensity, those 4-mile runs were faster than I could do 1 mile a year ago.
Wow.
As far as like a per minute pace.
Yeah.
And that's huge because it's the consistency, not because I'm so strong or anything, but because I've been like putting in the work. That the consistency like drives that ability to have better intensity and better volume.
Right. No, like it paid dividends, right? It
did.
You put it in, you put in the time. That's awesome.
It paid
That's
a 3% dividend.
And honestly, hey, I love that. wish everything was doing that.
3% dividend is kind of nice.
It's pretty nice. And that's what we're trying to do here, right? Is like we try to set a sustainable pace, like 1 episode a week. We're not trying to do 4 episodes a week. We're not trying to do a blitz, even 2 episodes a week. We said we think we can sustain a 1 episode a week at an hour. Like that's still a good amount of content. That's still a good amount of time that we're putting in for a lot of these episodes. And the editing,
and we're doing reels now, so we're posting reels every day, so that if you want to, right now it's every day. We'll see if it sticks. I mean, we're gonna do every day for probably the next 20-some days, because we're gonna do like 30 days of them, and then we'll check in and see how they're working. So if you like reels, go engage with them on Becoming Ourselves on YouTube and Joel Sigerst on TikTok, because otherwise they might go away if nobody's engaging with them. We'll see.
We're data driven on this one.
We are data driven.
Well, and that's something we talked about quite a lot, was like, do we want to do shorts? Do we want to pay somebody to do shorts? Do we want to do them ourselves? What does that look like? Is that even in line with our mission, right?
Yep. We're doing them ourselves, but if anybody wants to volunteer, shoot us a text at 503-893-2664, and you could do it for us. I wouldn't stop you.
We would be
although
happy.
We may not pay
you can even get in touch with either of us individually if you know us well enough to have our phone numbers. That would be acceptable.
Yep. But we could talk. We might pay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Depends on what you're offering. Do hard things, right?
Well, no. I'm not going to just pay an exposure, but I may pay because it's a volunteer gig. So.
Yeah. Anyway, we're still not turning a profit, so I don't know that we would be.
If we're paying anything, we're gonna pay dollars. We're not gonna pay an exposure. If we're paying an exposure, no, you're just doing it as a volunteer.
You're just doing it as a volunteer.
Anyway,
you know. But yeah, I mean, I think us setting out like a consistent pace has been a really valuable lesson to learn as well, because recording an episode a week is like it's like a discipline thing. It's like, you know, we got to show up when we can. We have to make some sacrifices, right? Like figure out like what's the opportunity cost of this. Spend, you know, a night editing as well, or some amount of time editing, right? And just like it's work.
Yeah, how long, Jesse?
Hey man.
Sorry, we ran it with our last episode. Jesse ran. I was unavailable because of, again, the Wild Rogue Relay, and Jesse ran into some problems with the software, and it took way longer than it has taken in many of the other episodes. It's taken neither of us, so. But he persevered, and that episode sounded damn good.
It did. It's one of my proudest achievements, and also I almost quit the podcast. But other than that, it's been sustainable, right? And that means we're showing up every week, and it gives us data points so that we're not ever filtering out like, oh, well, this one did well because it was our first in a long time, or this one did poorly because we hadn't posted in a long time. It's like, nope, we're posting on Mondays, we're posting in the same circumstances, we're able to go from there, and that's been exciting. That's been really I've been really pleased with how that's played out.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's been good. And we do have some fun ones coming up. We've got we're doing a recording for next week, which will be great. I'm excited to bring Devin on. And then we've talked to a couple of other guests. One in the finance space again. Another, I think, in the community space. Am I forgetting anybody?
And we've got leads. We might keep doing some kind of a travel sub theme as well, because we really enjoyed doing that episode with Becca, and have a couple other. I have a lot of travel connections, and Joel has some travel connections. So
we've got some more, but the ones that I expect to be coming is Devin next week, and then hopefully this finance one. I'm not going to say his name just in case. Cause
their name, we don't need to
their name. Sorry,
any extra data here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a lot of soft yeses, got a lot of I'm interested kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
have some fun ideas for topics too. So
might record a couple episodes in Spanish. That's a joke.
We probably won't do any episodes in Spanish. Maybe one day.
Tal vez algún día.
I don't know what that means, boss. Maybe one day we will record an episode in Spanish, because Bite Size Philosophy will be our...
That was Freudian, bro.
That was Freudian,
You're
bro.
fired.
That was so Freudian. Oh my goodness, that was so bad. Man,
bro, your
eyes got so big, bro.
Bro, I got to do my podcast on my own. You can go back to your old one.
Bro, you might. Sheesh.
Bro, that feels like the equivalent of calling your partner by your ex's name.
Oh my goodness, dude. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's too funny.
But becoming ourselves may be big enough that we need it translated. So
maybe we'll do that.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Maybe Joel will learn Spanish and we can record an episode together.
Yeah, maybe Joel will learn the title of his own podcast. Title of what we're doing, but
man. Well, Joel, you got anything else?
Yeah, I've been really enjoying this. I appreciate that people continue to tune in, and I appreciate the feedback that we're getting from people. And if you do have any feedback, or if you have any topics that you want to bring on, or topics that you want to talk about, or that you want us to talk about, text us 503-893-2664. Truly, that's a blast. We love being able to respond and talk to that. So
I think it's kind of this fun space where, like, if you reach out to us now with guest ideas, with topic ideas, episode ideas, like you're a main character in the Becoming Ourselves story.
You do become a main character in this universe.
You get to be like part of it.
You're
right?
in canon.
And you are. Like, we'll remember that. Maybe we'll say your first name on
hey, we said Jordan and Noel's first name on the Chris episode.
Yeah. So
and Jordan listened to it just today. He texted me about it. He said he liked it. He said, "Thanks for the shout out."
Yeah. So
you'll
get a shout out unless you're like, I really don't want my name. Then we'll just be like, we had an unnamed rock star.
That's true.
But you get to decide that.
That's true. Like what we hopefully edited out earlier where I said the guy's name. We are pretty free and loose with people's names on this podcast. So
Joel is pretty free and loose with people's names on this podcast.
Yeah, it's a clarifier. All right.
I've been trained otherwise.
Yeah, Joel plays a pretty fast and loose with listeners' names on this podcast. So
I've signed enough NDAs in my day.
Yeah, but our listeners didn't. Our listeners haven't signed an NDA.
That's a good point. But I just, you got to be covering your six at all times.
If you're going to be my friend and you're going to talk to me about this podcast, maybe I'm going to say your name on air. It's just one of the things that comes with it.
And if you're my friend, I probably won't. But Joel might.
But I might say your name.
I will say your name off air, and Joel will say your name on
and then
air,
Joel's going to repeat it just ad nauseum for no reason at all.
But yeah, I mean, that's my encouragement. If you're interested, be a main character in the Becoming Ourselves story, or be a guest if you're fascinating.
Yeah, take some action, right?
Yeah.
Like, shoot us a text. Even if we don't get to the topic or the guest that you recommend, we'll respond. We'll talk to you about it. Yeah, bring it up.
Well, and it'll inspire. It'll inspire us to go that direction, right? We're very open to feedback, suggestions. Love it.
Yep. Yep. Next week, we're going to have a guest on again. We're going to be getting into some fun topics next week. We're going to be talking about making friends. We're going to be talking about finding community. We're going to be talking about some of these sorts of topics. So very good. I think it's pertinent things, hard to do in this world. So guests are not going away. Don't you worry about that. But this has been a good just reflection for the two of us. That we'll do these episodes occasionally where it's less scripted and it's more just reflecting on where the show is and where we're continuing to go.
Yeah, and these are also these are kind of an invitation for the conversation to be outside of the air as well. So that's kind of like we just said. Like, yeah, if you're fascinated, if you just want to chat, we're open for that.
Totally. Yeah, we're welcoming all that. So
yeah.
Anyway, all that to be said, text us 503-893-2664. Oh, man, we both said it in a way that probably was hard to hear, but that's okay. We've said it a couple of times.
503-893-2664. I got it memorized too.
I'm so proud of you for it. All right, thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.